Hey, what is up ladies and gentlemen, I am Daffy Duck here once again, and I'm back for some more of the Maxi Toys videos. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to more Let's Play of Sonic Unleashed for the Xbox 360/PlayStation 3. So last time we actually did tackle for the majority of, daytime stage in the forms of Rooftop Run in Spagonia, and especially notable in the forms of Dragon Road's daytime stage in the forms of Junon, and also we beat the likes of the Egg Devil Ray. In addition to that though, we've also managed to restore our third Chaos Emerald, and able to restore this third continent. And today for this episode is the fact that we're going to be moving on back into the Alaska once again, but this time I'm assuming we're going to be able to actually, restore the fourth continent, and eventually we're able to actually restore our fourth Chaos Emerald along the way. So even then though that, hopefully we can able to actually get the nighttime stage done and over with, before we move on to the, almost to the halfway portion of this version of the game, because, well, as far as I'm aware for that such, so even then though, we've already got, you know, all the medals in this particular you know, main hub world in the forms of Alaska already ever since the very beginning. So even though we'll just have to jump straight into the secondary hub, and hopefully we can actually get into the nighttime level, because even though, excuse me, that we've already able to actually tackle through the daytime stage before from the very beginning of the game. Well, at least after the forms of, you know, Missouri Day, and especially dealing well with Egg Beetle. So, yeah, you get the idea. And as well, it's going to be a huge emphasis on ice physics all over again. So we'll just have to deal with these ice physics. And then this time around, though, we have to deal with the ice physics as the Werehog. So this makes it a little bit more difficult in some levels like this. That the fact that we have to deal with a lot of ice momentum and all that stuff, even for ice physics in mind. So, excuse me, I have to apologize for that about that point. So anyways, we got ourselves both of those moon medals, so even then they'll be good to go for this little stimulating parts. So even then with that being said in mind though, today was actually forms of, I was classified for saying today was actually, excuse me, is the forms of the I would say 25th of April. Yeah, I was good at thinking about that, right. So yeah, basically, you know, it's not much else. Oh, actually, today was actually forms of, oh, I'm quite confused today. It's the 26th of April, so even though tomorrow that we've got, Nintendo Labo is going to be releasing tomorrow, which even though, to be honest, I wasn't really, interested with that particular accessories at the moment with the forms of Nintendo Labo. Although, the concept, I will say though, is pretty cool. Like, very much like how it does in the forms of made everything out of cardboard syndrome. But it's just that it's not my cup of tea or anything. So anyways, oh, by the way, in order to actually get to this stage right there, which is Cool Edge Nighttime level, basically we need to able to activate all these three liver switches, and if you manage to activate all three of them just in time, then you would able to actually unlock the door. And you got to be very quick though, because even though sometimes those switches doesn't last very long, because even though that, unlike how it does in the forms of well, pretty much every single switch delivers throughout the majority of the nighttime level. Oh god, I got frozen. So yeah, basically with these robots right there, they usually breathe, they usually send out, oh, thank you. Thankfully though, I can able to actually take down those enemies whenever they become frozen thanks to those robots there. Thank you guys for able to actually appreciate it with that. Now, in the forms of, you know, the Wii/PlayStation 2 version, normally they always have their health bars, but even then though, I could assume these guys managed to have themselves, keep on respawning or something. Anyway, so we got ourselves the first sun medal. So, hopefully we can get even more sun medals along the way, in addition to the moon medals as well beyond that. But even then though, we'll just see what happens there. So, we have to be very, very, very careful around here. At first I thought this particular water texture was supposed to be a black oil, but it turns out it wasn't, so even though it's just water. So, and because that this particular water is actually based off from, you know, the snowy land, it's incredibly freezing out there, so even though we just don't want to get into it. And of course, the enemy starts to able to appear as soon as I get up, because yeah, there was actually a shortcut you can able to actually perform that, but I was simply just able to stand onto that, you know, the water barrel still impact, and then that way you could able to actually just use that to jump onto it, and then able to actually grab onto these little, you know, grappler bars, and that way you should be able to perform shortcuts with ease. So, there you go then. But of course, that wasn't mainly the case though, because we had to basically, although you can do it if you wanted to, but even then though, that the basic premise of this is that we need to actually deliver that stone all the way to that specific stuff there. You know that particular stuff that I mentioned about this before, even for the actual premise there, since we've already done this before ever since Apatos, and especially with, no, I don't want to talk to you. I've already know what I'm doing. Anyway though. So, yeah, with that being said, because of the fact that we need to deliver that stone all the way to that little, pendulum, that we've already done that before ever since Apatos, and especially noticeable with Spagonia. That particular mechanic is somewhat feels a bit similar to how it does in Sonic Adventure 1, that normally you have to deliver just only, I would classify for only two, stones, which are the Wind Stone and the Ice Stone, which the Wind Stone actually access to, you know, Windy Valley, and then the Ice Stone will actually lead you to Ice Cap level. So, very similar in concept for that here and there, because, you know. Alright, so since we've placed the stone here, is it possible that, this thing tilts, so I probably can't do that, so I have to do it in a normal fashion way then, so, fair enough, I'll just go ahead and just do it normally. Although I wish if I can able to actually perform tons of shortcuts here and there to able to get ourselves the best timing going, but unfortunately it doesn't last very long. So anyways, even more enemies to deal out with. Terrific. And this time we're going to be able to deal with these enemies, but in forms of we have to deal with them while these Soul Blaze usually comes in. So even then we're just hoping we're not going to cut ourselves for that, and after doing with all these enemies, then we can now able to proceed. But first off, let me just get ourselves these little Chaos experience drive, so that way we can able to actually continuously leveling up for ourselves from that particular point notice, and let's get our new units of health. And I'm probably not gonna go up there just yet, because it did happen to me whenever I played this on my PlayStation 3 at one point in my own time. Then if I was trying to go up there before when I was trying to deal out with the enemies, and then turns out that the enemies did manage to already appeared, and as a result, it just ruins my getting my sun medal from up at the top, which even then though. Speaking of which, when I first time I played this level in the forms of the PlayStation 3 version during it recently on my own time, and, well, I've already know what the level is for the most part, though, but it's just how the fact that, well, unfortunately, though, how the fact that during the other day ago, I've recently managed to come across into a power cut, and as a result, the bad thing about the forms of actually getting a power cut when you're in the middle of something like the level like this, you know the metal collecting that you're always going to be kept until forever until you either, exit out the level, or just basically just able to complete the level normally. And what happens is though is that my medal counts is somehow lost track. So even then though that I have to restart the entire level again, and as a result, getting these medals again, because that just becomes a massive screw over if you're able to actually come across into a power cut like that, which even then though, that's an incredibly bad thing for my part, mind you. But anyways, we got another sun medal right there, which that's the medal I should probably need because of how the fact that when we get to the very end of the game eventually, that, you know, I always have to, like, you know, grind for some more of these sun medals before doing so. And speaking of sun medals, if we actually just open up this door here, then we can get ourselves the sun medal right from here. It's always swell. It's always swell. Okay, so the reason why we need this robot in the first place, not only do you have to throw it like an idiot like I do, but we need to grab it. We need to grab him. Sorry about that, a little bit of a dialogue error or anything like that. But basically, you have to carry him over towards here and able to actually melt the ice with. And in order to actually do that, it's by simply we need to press the Y button in order to actually just manage to able to let the flamethrower melt the ice. Which is pretty cool idea in theory, but even then though, if you ever guys play for the PlayStation 3 version, it's normally a triangle button, so yeah, because you know, it's more likely a Sony's counterpart to, you know, Microsoft Xbox 360 controllers like that, but at least it's as far as better like than nothing. So anyway, need to be very careful right there, because not only does this place become super slippery, but as a result, you know these tightrope sequences like this, you can no longer gonna have to grab onto these edges anymore, so as a result, this is gonna be way too many difficulties like this when we get to the latest levels throughout in the game. And, well, we're just gonna have to be very careful and be cautious, because if you mess up at least once, then you have to redo the entire section again. And speaking of which, I need to get a checkpoint, so just in case I won't go back to the very beginning of that previous checkpoint. So, hopefully everything else checks out there. Oh, got frozen. So yeah, in order to actually break free, is that you need to able to keep on rattling the analog controls as much as you can. So, speaking of another checkpoint, there you go then. And before we're able to deliver that, you know, pulling up the lever, we have to deal with even more enemies. So, yeah, you can probably tell how the fact that this is getting pretty repetitive by the forms of, well, just the music itself, because this is getting really, really ridiculous. I kind of just prefer, like, well, you know how the fact that in the Kingdom Hearts games that normally has a different battle theme, depends on what worlds you visit, which I found is very, very unique. But even then though, that I kind of wish if it has like a different battle music instead of like the exact same one every single time when you're able to actually bump into enemies all the goddamn time. Which, even though that can really, messes me up to no end. But, hey, excuse me about that. I just had a bit of a throat, cocking up at the moment. Which, even then, I do apologize for that, because even then, there's been so much eating for this kind of stuff like that. But anyway, I think that pretty much does it for the rest of the enemies, which I'm pretty sure I must confess right about now. So anyways, there's a moon medal right there, if we're able to actually grab that from that particular platform. But of course, this place is super slippery at some points, that we need to be very cautious here. And yeah, that's what I can tell. Guess there's nothing here besides some unleashed orbs. And we can actually use to pull the lever to activate the little platforms there. And before we continue, there's another sun medal. There we go. So we're doing pretty well, but in forms of sun medals grinding, because as a result, because it's a nighttime level after all. But then, even then though, let's just hoping if I can able to get the, you know, the last few medals before we're able to get to level 7, which is the most mandatory level grinding in forms of the medal grinding, until when we get to the very ending portion of this game. So, or even for this matter, for this particular version of the game, because, well, thankfully though, on the Wii and the PlayStation 2 version, that you don't have to get every single medals until you're able to finish the main game. Well, unless if you want to go for 100%, then by all means you can do that. Another sun medal, which you can simply just drop down from here by those little swinging bars. And if we actually attack the igloo, we get ourselves an art book. And from here, we can able to get ourselves yet another sun medal just right from over there. It's a pretty easy it's pretty easy to miss that particular sun medal, so even though you never know. Right here, this section. This one might be tough to... Wow, we just messed up 3 nighttime stages levels now, guys. Just wonderful. Even though I would able to appreciate it with that, so you know what? I'll be right back. Hey. Jeez, I hate that sometimes. But anyway. Oh, Christ. I'm hoping this won't ever happen until when we get to the latest nighttime levels I was hoping for, because, well, we haven't got any single S ranks at the moment. Well, besides Rooftop Run daytime stage, because I already know this level so well. In addition to carry up to 787 rings, which is quite a lot of rings you can able to get. In fact, there's actually achievement / trophy in this particular game that you can actually able to carry up to 5,000 rings for the majority of the main adventure, which even though this is a pretty good way to able to grind for more rings and all that stuff. Oh god, I'm gonna get owned by that so easily. No, oh Chip, you ruined my interruption to able to actually beat the likes out of these robots. Jeez. I'm not complaining about you, it's just the fact that every time when I was in the middle of something, and then he always starts to interrupt me just as soon as I'm able to actually do some specific tactics and all that stuff. Oh jeez, it's like air boosting all over again. Well, the exception being the forms of the wall jump, because even though he doesn't talk through it, well, he does, but even though he doesn't stop me for doing so. But anyway. We need to carry this robot yet again, but now we can able to actually melt the stronger icicle parts, because we need to melt that in the first place to make that thing weakened. But before we continue, let's go ahead and grind ourselves more health, and if we open up this door here, then we can get ourselves another moon medal. So far so good when it comes to metal grinding from this particular level itself, but still. And yeah, after when you melt that particular giant icicle stuff there, then you would normally try to beat the likes out of it, and then this giant icicle thing will become floatable, and then as a result, then we can able to actually continue. This part is can be kind of fiddly though for me though, because sometimes I always get thrown myself by the forms of even then I was really used to with the PlayStation 2/Nintendo Wii version of that particular system that you have to hold down the button until you're able to actually get yourselves a little bit of some freedom. But in this, that you always have to press just that button and that's about it. So even then it makes it very curious to see how the fact that, yeah, that's what I can tell. And from here we got another videotape, which, sure enough, we might as well just able to actually just to accept it. And if we go over there, even more enemies as a result, but in forms of these Eggman's robots. It makes these fighting those enemies can get really tough at this point for this level right there, because we always have to fight enemies in new forms of whenever there is icicle physics involved. So yeah, as far as I'm aware, because even though those snow levels can get really tough in some games, most notably in I would classify for say new forms of Donkey Kong Country, in new forms of Snow Barrel Blast, in that level, in the forms of the Super Nintendo, and I believe the Game Boy Advance version and the Game Boy Color version. Well, I would say the same thing for Donkey Kong Land 1 on the Game Boy, but I wasn't really entirely sure about that. So anyways, here's one of my favorite parts. If you manage to able to carry him and then just use the flamethrower at the enemies, they run away like hell! Man, I love doing that. Especially noticeable that you don't have to worry about just trying to keep on mashing the buttons. And especially noticeable if you refuse to able to beat the likes out of these Dark Gaia enemies, then you would normally just try to make them run away like a chicken. And that way they should able to actually burn themselves alive. So, man, I love doing that. So anyways though, let's get our extra life. So even then we got ourselves 26 1-ups. So I'm pretty sure we got enough at the moment until we get to the final point of the game, because I won't get to tell you until when we get to later, or I'm sure maybe people already know what I'm talking about, until when we get to the later portions throughout. So anyways, let's get another art book right there. Seriously, what's up with these too many collectibles? Even for all the items that we actually got. So another sun medal right there. And let's go ahead and drop down here very carefully right there. And of course, we do need to bring that fiery robot again. So just in case we need to melt out the icicle stuff from the front of the door, so that way we can able to actually just guarantee it of trying to actually melt the thing. Anyway, so there we go. That sort things out. And let's press the button and able to actually open up the door in the process. And there's a checkpoint. Alright, now this part right there can be a little bit difficult because you know the ice physics as I mentioned earlier. Well, we're gonna have to go through this obstacle course without falling off. So even though that, although sometimes that controls might be a little bit too finicky with that particular section in mind, but we'll see what happens there as soon as I'm able to bypass through everything. So from here, oh my god, see this does remind me of almost related to Super Mario Sunshine when it comes to obstacle courses like this. Especially noticeable how the fact that in Super Mario Sunshine they don't have the long jump ability besides the actual diving ability. But even then, I really do appreciate it with that. But anyway, let's go ahead and grab that. No! Get back! I need that sun medal! I need that sun medal before I'm able to actually get ourselves emergency phone calls. Come on! Oh! Okay. I'm trying to... Come on! Jeez, it's like the sun medal's telling me that you're not gonna get me. But even then, I'm not gonna let you proceed in at the very end of the game. Oh, speaking of which, you got me. Haha, eat that, sun medal. Well, despite the fact that I need you for able to actually just to complete everything throughout. So anyway, if we go over there, this is where we're able to get ourselves an alternative pathway we can go to until we get ourselves yet another moon medal. So I believe that pretty much guarantee us to give us 5 moon medals, and son of a pig, my jump button does not respawn on me at all. Fine, I'll deal with these enemies then. Hey, I can't believe how that happens to me though sometimes, because even then though, that just really ruins my distraction of how the fact that whenever I was trying to do some really tight platforming segments like that, But then oftentimes I always trying to able to actually jump and just trying to skip the entire battle sequences. But still, I have to be forced to deal with them because even then, that just really ruins my emergencies. Even then, that just really distracts me for the most part. And I don't know if you noticed for this point, folks, but one of the more annoying things about this today, though, for me, is that again my computer starts lacking a bit. Especially noticeable when I was trying to do some capture recordings and all that stuff, which is really irritating me. But anywho, but even though that always happens to me like several minutes notice. So anyways, let's go ahead and go up. And would you look at that? We have to deal with even more enemies, including Eggman's robots, in addition to this wizard enemy right there. That we've last time we've actually come across into this wizard enemy. I think it was actually based off Junon Knights. Even though that's the only last time we actually saw this particular wizard enemy. So there we go, we beat the likes out her, so that way we can able to actually just deal with Eggman's robots at the very end. So, oh crap. So there's something I just want to mention about this, is that in addition to the Sega Mega Drive Classic Mini were about to be on this horizon until eventually at this point. And there's also the forms of, they're about to be re-releasing the forms of Shenmue 1 and 2 on the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One, I could assume, because even then though, because of the Shenmue 3 will be on its way on the forms of I'm assuming PlayStation 4 something like that. I'm pretty sure that's what I was going to be thinking of. I'm not going to go back there because obviously it might actually trigger some more hazards in here and there. So with that being said, let's skip that part and we'll just continue on forward. And hopefully we can able to actually activate the door. So then we can able to actually go sliding all the way down to the ice slide. And hopefully we can able to, well, pretty much finish up the level right there. So first off, we got ourselves the final moon medal, which actually gives us all 6 of these moon medals. How about that then? So of course we got some more enemies to dish out with. So even then though, that we can able to, well, obviously we need to deal with the wizard enemy first before we're able to deal with Eggman's robots, of course. So, if that's the case, mind you, then it would be pretty much a standard stuff. So even though that, oh god, I'm gonna get owned by any moment's notice by the forms of the Blastoids robots from the second there. But hey, at least I can still survive as long as I wanted to for this particular fight. So even though, let's beat the likes out of him, there we go. Oh, I can able to actually get my powered up by the forms of that attack power. So hopefully we can able to actually use Unleash for the entire time and able to beat the likes out of these wizards with no problem whatsoever. And hopefully I might as well able to get myself my next selections of the forms of these Chaos Drive equipment, or in this case the actual experience points. So there we go. And there's only 2 more enemies left, and hopefully we can get this level done and over with until when we actually get ourselves the next Gaia key. But before we actually obtain that, I'm gonna have to double check on the not just the forms of the Chaos experience points, but also need to double check what's beyond right here. But I'm assuming it might be something to do with the record means more music. So at first I thought it was going to be a sun medal, but unfortunately I was one off by getting that last sun medal in this level though. But there we go. That concludes Alaska Night, and let's see how I did. An A effort. How about that? A for awesome. Well, yeah, that's as far as I can say for this part. So we got ourselves a whole bunch of items, including the likes of the Gaia Gate. And let's go ahead and use some of the experience points on combat to level 10 now. So that even then we can able to learn more moves for that stuff. And as for the rest, I'm actually going to be using the quite a few from Ring Energy from Sonic the Hedgehog, so that we can able to get into the daytime stage at some point soon. And we'll save the last portion of the experience points to I'm actually going to go for life then, because even though I'm not sure it wasn't that enough, but until when I do this off screen, we're able to do some more of the nighttime stages and during the likes of the optional ones until on my own time. And that way I can able to actually become a stronger werehog fighting combat style. So anyways though, let's get into the forms of Dark Moray, the next boss fight in this game, and also the second nighttime boss, because the first one was Dark Gaia Phoenix. So let's beat the likes out of Dark Moray, and hopefully we'll can able to actually be completely done with Alaska in no time. Okay, so let's get started by the forms of Dark Moray in the forms of the Xbox 360 version / PlayStation 3 counterparts. You know how the fact that in the forms of the PlayStation 2 and the Nintendo Wii version that in order to actually deal with this fight is that normally you have to able to actually, keep on attacking for those little, ice air containers until you're able to actually get into the actual arena and able to beat the crap out of, Dark Moray. And then as a result, and you can able to actually attack Dark Moray at any point's notice in the entire body. It doesn't matter what body parts you're actually going to be hitting him on from. But even then, that's as far as I can tell because he was actually way easier on the PlayStation 2 and the Nintendo Wii version. But even then, that's not the point. So anyways, in this particular version of Dark Moray this time around though, is the fact that in order to actually get into the actual arena to able to actually keep on attacking Dark Moray to begin with, is that you need to keep on attacking those little snake stuff until you're able to actually, in order to actually deal with them, is by simply we need to use the ice tanks, or in this case just ice tanks or whatever, and then you would able to normally chuck it at the forms of these little snake-like creatures, and then as a result, in that way we should able to actually deal the damage of the forms of these little snake-looking enemies right there. But even though it normally starts at 2 and then 3 and I'm presuming 4 for last. And even then though, unlike how it does in the forms of the Wii and the PlayStation 2 version, you have to attack all 4 of those little containers until you're able to let the shield go down. And then as a result, then we could able to actually attack Dark Moray to begin with. In this particular version this time around though, so in order to actually deal the damage on Dark Moray is that you need to able to attack 3 segments of his weak spots, and even then though, you cannot attack him everywhere, so you have to specifically attack on its weak spots, most notably on those bright green weak spots until you're able to actually deal the damage on Dark Moray. But unlike how it does in the Wii and the PlayStation 2 version, as I mentioned earlier, you can attack him in almost every single spot of this body, which even then though, that's not the case on this version, I'm afraid. So even now, hopefully God forbid to try to able to actually just go ahead and attack its weak spots for all 4 of them, or 3 of them I should say. But even now, the hardest part of them all for this boss fight though, it will probably have to be at the very end, because normally, the first 2 weak spots is pretty much easy for the most part, just to able to actually get this thing going. However though, the third and final one is easily the toughest one to able to attack from, because not only do you able to actually, try to deal with all 3 weak spots in Dark Moray, but also judging by the fact that the first weak spot was actually the very bottom, and then the second one was actually in the middle part but on the back, and then the third and final weak spot was actually on the top of its head. And then basically what you have to do, I highly suggest you able to actually, oh crap. So yeah, that definitely is the more trickier parts about this boss fight though, to me though, because you might ended up, getting frozen all the time, and oh my god, lagging is so really happening right now. Oh crap. So yeah, that attack can get really annoying to deal with though, especially noticeable that he's gonna do that all the time on this particular phase. But even though that, it might take a while to able to actually get into the main purpose of this. Anyways, let's go ahead and grab this ice container and chuck it at Dark Moray, and this is what you're supposed to do. I highly suggest you jump and press the Y button like multitude of times until you're able to deal the damage on Dark Moray onto that top of that weak spot. So even though although sometimes I have to admit though right away is that my jump button yet again does not work on me at all. But even though it's always the jump that always screws me up. And it depends on what version I was playing through, and it looks like the ice container is stuck inside the actual well, I could beat the likes out of that, but it might not be very helpful though. So even though yeah, I could not able to reach up there, so I guess I'll have to wait though. Sometimes it can be more likely a waiting game syndrome, but even though it's not that too much of a frustration fight to able to deal with there. But whenever you're first time playing the game, some people might actually have frustrated with this particular version of this fight because normally they did not reach onto that third and final weak spot. But again, in order to actually just to manage to do a proper damage on Dark Moray, oh come on, he's almost down. Oh come on, why's my button did not react? Ah, thanks a lot. Just only a little bit of health left until he's done. Right. So anyways though, I guess not much else to say about Dark Moray in this version, although to be fair, that again I mentioned this before, press the Y button or the triangle button if you ever play this on the PlayStation 3 version, in order to actually just manage to hopefully manually finishing up with Dark Moray as far as the actual boss fight goes. So, okay, good. Right, I'm hoping that little button does react. Oh, come on. Come on. Work with me, please. Thank you. Huh. That's quite tough, though. I have to admit that right away.
Sorry, I'm in a rush here.
Yeah, for actually restoring not only the 4th Chaos Emerald, but also the 4th Continent as well, to able to restore one of the broken parts of the Earth. So, let's see what rank I got. I got a B rank. Not too shabby, but again, not the best run through because of how the fact that my button doesn't seem to react to in time when we're trying to get into the 3rd and final weak spot. But oh well. But anyways, let's go ahead and use the experience points up to combat. And yeah, I don't have that enough to able to get level 11 or something like that. So there we go. That concludes Dark Moray, and let's restore not only the 4th Continent, but also the 4th Chaos Emerald. Okay, so we've now pretty much restored the 4th Chaos Emerald, which appears to be light blue. And yeah, 4 Chaos Emeralds down, and also 4 continents down, and only 3 more to go. So everything else will be doubly checked and just as well enough. So yeah, that we pretty much does it for the forms of Alaska for now, because now we can able to go back to Spagonia and able to talk to Professor Pickle. And then we can able to actually deal with more stuff. I'm assuming the next stop we're gonna be heading to is definitely Shamar next. Which even I know that might be something related to, well, the continuation of the plot elements. Sorry for a little bit of a tongue twisting in the end, folks. So join me next time on Let's Play Sonic Unleashed for the Xbox 360/PlayStation 3, is that we're returning back to Spagonia and able to actually hopefully get into the next destination, Shamar. So see you guys next time. Later, fellas.